We're going live on YouTube while we're doing this, David.
Yes, sir.
And so he's gonna start us with some like intro music, and that'll be on the YouTube or whatever. Yeah, and they can hear us.
Brad, you doing better there? You sound like you got a.
The vocal cords are starting to do it again.
Yeah. Well, I wish I could share my tea with you, but
Yeah, I just had a tea.
this is so sad. I moved my jug of tea down. Stuck in the desk. Oh. Did I do something wrong?
Oh,
Oh, okay. I just I took my screen blank for a second. It's all good. It's all good.
Chris should tell us when the music's over. We've got several people watching live. David Lawson mentions, "Good evening, brothers, companions, sir knights."
Hey, hey. Doing
Oh.
well.
Yeah.
Yay, and the crowd goes wild.
I wanted the wave. That's what I wanted.
Oh, the way. Okay.
Well, I guess we would just like to kind of introduce our brother David Rogers to the show. This is regarding Texas Freemasonry. Thank you for joining us live on YouTube tonight. And if you do enjoy the show, hit the like button, subscribe. You can chat in the in the live chat, and we can answer your questions as we go along. You'll have to pardon my vocal cords or giving me a fit, but this is my voice. So, anyway, welcome, David. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with y'all, and thanks for the invite. I'm really enjoying the new technology. The guys under 50 are driving. Really, the guys under 40 are driving, and so it's. I think it's wonderful for masonry, and kudos to you guys that stick at it and promote our fraternity and the wonderful symbolism through your efforts.
Yeah.
I think we appreciate that tremendously. I'd like to start off just kind of ask, could you give us kind of your resume of your Masonic journey, kind of a nutshell of what you've done, what you've conquered, or where you're going, and all that fun stuff before we dive into tonight?
Well, I want to make it perfectly clear that I'm a proponent of the Peter Principle, and I have risen to the level of my incompetence, and I'm really, really happy here. I, I, yeah, I have, but in all seriousness, I get every week I get to do something for our fraternity, and most likely it's going to be in the York Rite. Uh, Last night we got to visit, just last night, conferring our Royal Arch degree at Garland, and that was fabulous. And I enjoyed working with you guys. I actually affiliated there recently, but that's my passion is the study and the teaching and the learning of the continuation of the craft degrees through York Rite. I started in '77, and it took me a year to get my master's degree until December of '78. It actually only took about 2 months because I spent about 10 months of that year being 21 years old. So, but as soon as I got the master's degree, the questions started, and I found a lot of the answers with the degrees and the symbolism and the lessons of the York Rite chapter of the Council in particular. Commandries, Commandry orders are beautiful, but I really found my answers in the symbolism and in the teachings, the background of the chapter and council degrees, particularly in the chapter. The Royal Arch degree is one of the oldest degrees uh, in traditional masonry. People want to date it to the early 1700s. Well, there are existent papers that it was being conducted in the mid 1600s. Heck, one of the head of I think it was Prince William, when he was fighting battles, received the Royal Arch degree in the mid 1600s. I'd have to go back and check that. To the point is the teachings and how it came into masonry. I find all that very interesting, but most importantly, how those lessons of those degrees can help a mason find his way. That masonry doesn't make anybody anything, but masonry gives a wonderful framework for a good man to improve himself and to become a better servant to his creator. Now all the Masonic stuff I do, the Grand Lodge offices in the past, and the Grand Chapter, Grand Council offices in the past. I'm currently on the Committee on Work for the Grand Chapter, Grand Council here in Texas. This is my 18th year on the Committee on Work, and that's all really great fun, and it's important to do that work. But I think showing younger Masons, both in age and in tenure, how they can find wonderful things and wonderful lessons and wonderful ways to expand your service to your creator as you see it. Man, if I can do that, that's gold. Using the degrees to help someone improve. Well, all those words we say about improving ourselves and different things. What is it? Oh, it's one of these things we want to improve ourselves in. I don't know what it's going to come to. We'll remember that later. But
Yeah.
that's the short version.
Okay.
Oh,
So
that's pretty good.
gonna say
Uh,
it sounds like you've done quite a bit for Grand Lodge as well.
Yeah, the for the first 10 years of my Masonic career, I was very passionate about the Blue Lodge in particular. The chapter council is a side note, but I was very active in my lodge. Went through the chairs of the Masters Warden Secretary Association in 1984, 85. I had the pleasure of being the president of that association. And that back then it was the 13th and the 14th districts. We combined, and we always looked forward to going out to Terrell each year and having the ladies and the gents out there, our brothers would have us a wonderful night of fellowship that was always culminated by not the speaker, but the pies, the homemade pies. That Masonic event. We really have lost the secret to Freemasonry, and it's great pies.
yeah.
That's the lost secret. That's the lost. My arm's lost keys now. It's lost pies. Um, but yeah, I was very active with the Master Warden Secretary Association. Um, um, uh, was active at Scottish Rite. Worked degrees there for many years through the '90s and 2000s, early 2000s, the '80s. Uh, one of the amazing things about Masonry is how it takes us different places. The Blue Lodge activity led me to go to meetings at the Scotch Rite Hospital, and I had been there years ago, and so because of that involvement and being a very active Blue Lodge Mason, going around to with the Knights of Mecca to work on degrees at that time back in the 80s. Not vigorously like a lot of guys, but fairly regularly. And Master Warden Secretary Association had a couple of meetings a year at Scotch Rite Hospital, one every year, most years two. And I fell in love with the place and started volunteering there in '93. And I have about 30 years of service there. I have broken service because of COVID, but I've got about 30 years of service as a volunteer at the Scotch Rite Hospital, and that's all because I was an active Blue Lodge Mason. And I think we 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 frequently are too willing to put another petition in front of a brother before he has a chance to really discover what his Blue Lodge roots are and get all the questions answered, not just a that's the way we've always done it, not a grandma's ham answer, but a true meaning. What's the meaning of this answer? Brad's laughing. He knows the
I
grandma's
think
ham.
you're really getting onto something right there. I mean, I'd say you're speaking to Chris 100% right there.
Absolutely.
The tangent degrees, they're wonderful and they have wonderful lessons. I think we need to keep our candidates who are not now they're our brothers. I think we need to keep them grounded and let them learn lessons about what discalciation really is. That what that meaning is of that symbolic removal of a shoe. And I have to be careful because I know we're on the internet, but
Interwebs.
it's in the monitor. It's in the Lightsfoot's monitor. It speaks of discalciation. And so there's more to it than that. The Bible, our ancient brothers, the founders of these degrees, knew the Bible better than we did. Most of them, it was probably the only book they owned. That's arguably the truth. I think any reasonable person would believe that the first book most people had 300 years ago or more was the Bible.
Yeah.
Book of substance. So, and they knew it, they read it, and their concept of using something like discalciation in the process of teaching a man to be a better man. Well, the biblical thing of that is not just Boaz and the other kinsman redeemer who shunned his duty, turning that away. That's not it was so serious that if a man wouldn't do his responsibility to his brother, his dead brother, or his dead brother's family, I should say, he had to go before a judge, and his shoe was taken off, and the widow spat on him in front of the judges. That's in Deuteronomy. That's not masonry, guys. But our brethren knew that, and they knew how serious the meaning of discalciation was. And we don't teach that to the companions. We don't teach that to the brothers. It's most importantly that we should learn that as a brother and then take it with us as a companion, my opinion. Those type of symbolisms. Albert Mackey was all about alternative symbolism. If you read some of his Masonic symbolisms on the craft masonry, on our Blue Lodge degrees, and everything. I mean, the two perpendicular parallel lines. The famous one I like to quote about him. That wasn't St. John the Baptist, St. John the Baptist. Again, monitorial. That wasn't St. John the Baptist, St. John the Evangelist. Albert Mackey, not Pike. If I said Pike a while ago, Albert Mackey thought those were Felix symbols. I mean, come on. He's a genius. He did more than I'll ever do for masonry. But sometimes we can, I think we can get off the trail of our own our own inclinations of what we think is ancient mysteries, and I think we need to be careful of that. I need to be careful of that when I propound I pontificate to the younger guys that I teach what's right and what's given, what's true, and not David's opinion. And I'm that's one thing I have to be careful of. But I really believe we need to have more time spent with. I'd like to, truthfully, this is heresy, and all my friends would shoot me. But I think we ought to have a moratorium of 6 months, not just until a master mason has turned in his proficiency. I think there ought to be a 6 month moratorium before a brother can go on. Only because it'll give him an opportunity to really continue to learn the symbolism. But that's not the system we have, and I support the system we have. Who can best work and best agree? We really have to go with that. And but I think those things will excite their curiosity. Don't we love how all these things come into masonry? How these phrases come back, excite our curiosity. Our brothers were geniuses. But anyway, okay, that's I hit the pause button.
Well, there's and
Right,
Dave.
right.
Oh,
Worshipful Cody Stewart is in the chat and says, "Hello, brother," or "Howdy, y'all."
Cody is amazing, Mason. Cody, hello. Were you examining tomorrow, Cody?
but you hit, Brother David, you hit on something so important right there that I'm very passionate about. Is first coming into it, me being the newest, the youngest, out of this group, especially. The thing is it's just a drink from the fire hose. When you go through the proficiencies, it's massive. There's so much to take in, and I agree with you to kind of pump the brakes a little bit and really kind of meditate and start studying on the symbolism and some of the things that you just experienced. It's massive importance, I believe.
Yeah. Another pet peeve in that is having a guy come in. If a brother is wanting to do this, that's fine. But I just really hate to see a brother get his master's degree in April. He gets installed as junior warden in June, and the following June, a year and 2 months later,
Yep.
he's installed master of his lodge. I've seen that. If that's what he's wanting to do, that's fine. But most people don't know. They don't know what they don't know.
Very true.
And so they don't know that it's great to go visit other lodges and get ideas and develop some really fun, neat things that other people have wonderful success with. To visit and have people come to your installation because you visited them and got to know them, and y'all become brothers, truly, and not just on a piece of card about
You
that
got
big.
that fellowship.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I really feel like that the old mossbacks like me ought to be willing to take another run through to give younger guys a chance to enjoy the trip to the east. Not not
It's
not
more of a
every
journey than a sprint.
yeah, not every trip to the east should be on the bullet train from London to Paris. Um, the the whole concept for a man becoming master of the lodge is the preparation for the actual. I mean, that the preparation, the time spent planning your year, the time spent. It's just that's okay. It's gold, and we should treat it that way. And we should. My opinion is we should. Us old mossbacks should be willing to take one more year in here and there to allow a young brother a chance to. If he's ready to put the pedal to the metal, I'm not going to hold him back. The guy's got he gets his certificate. He wants to go. Okay, I'm with him. But when we push, we need you. We need you. No, we need you to have a great time as master. We need you to enjoy your year. We need you to really have a wonderful time and make this a lifetime experience.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Absolutely
Anyway,
Amen.
agree to that.
no.
Yeah, yeah. So I agree with that totally. I kind of have my foot on the gas quite a bit right now. And I
But
did a whole lot.
you have 2 feet on the gas.
Yeah, I definitely, I spent my first year really learning the certificate work, the ritual, like getting that down packed. I've got the A certificate for 2 years in a row now, and became master. But like during my senior warden year, I did a whole lot of planning and talking and traveling and visiting and just getting to know every brother that I could and asking them to come visit my lodge and come speak at my lodge and different things. And now everything's kind of, the cake is all mixed up together and it's in the oven just cooking, and I'm waiting to enjoy it. And that's really what I'm doing.
Absolutely, and it's everybody's. Some people have a cable toe that it goes out beyond the horizon. Some people's cable toe's a little closer to the waiting pond there at low tide.
Right.
Yep.
uh,
Yeah.
so uh, the, it's what you can do. It's what your family, what makes you happy, and most importantly, makes those that you love that are around you happy.
Yeah.
That's got this. I just, I really just, it saddens me to know that masonry could ever interfere with a family that we can't arrange a system where people can enjoy masonry and not be robbing their family of time. That it could be nights when the kids are doing homework and the brothers, he can sneak off and come to the lodge. And yeah, the joke sneak off. I got it, guys. Yeah, we I've thought for years that we ought to have some kind of collective a daycare that larger Masonic temples have, like the Dallas Scottish Rite, have where guys can bring their kids with them, and they have an activity room for the kids to play in while Dad's upstairs, and not that way the mom doesn't feel resentful all the time. But again, that's an old guy that doesn't have kids, that doesn't have to plan for all these things, and dragging kids with him to the lodge when they don't want to go. They want to stay at home and watch TV. They don't want to go downtown. I get it.
Right.
But I just I think uh, that we should never push a brother, and also we should never hold a brother back when he's prepared himself properly.
Yeah.
So it's I'm listening. I'm going to be the guy that when you start talking to me about York Rite Masonry, I'm going to be the guy handing you that petition. I'm going
Yeah.
to do that, but I'm not going to be the guy telling you that you should do that before you anything else. And you ought to do it right now before you even go through the lodge lineup. Yeah, I think it would. I think being a York Rite Mason would make you a better master just receiving the past master's degree. It'll teach you a wonderful lesson. Um, do you need to get active at the same time you're going through the chairs? Maybe not. Some people
Mm,
eat it up, and maybe they can do both. Uh, but maybe you don't. Maybe you need to spend the little league time and the blue lodge time, and when you get through the chairs of the lodge, you spend one night over at the chapter and council a week, or a couple of nights a month before work. It's everybody's own cable toe. I get
Right.
that, and I'm not going to push any brother to do that. Um, we are in the business of downsizing. We had 200,000 plus when I joined. We had 960 lodges when I joined. About that, had 140, 150 chapters and councils, uh, 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 or more of everything. And we're we're supporting about 75, anywhere between Eastern Star and being probably the hardest hit, um, uh, through the Scotch Rite, which had no hits but has suffered. But we're doing about 75% of the work with 25% of the labor. So I think we're doing a wonderful job right now. I think Masons in Texas are operating 75% of the facilities and organizations with less about 25% of the membership when all this was at its heyday. A little less than 25, closer to 20% of the membership.
Because we still see the value in it,
Yeah,
and we believe
yes.
in it.
So I think we did a heck of a job. I think we need to be careful of riding a good horse to death on young guys that are very active, and making them know that this isn't something they have to do. It's something we want them to do when they want to do it. And that's anyway.
That's a good segue into kind of what we were really wanting to talk about, which was because you mentioned chapter and council in York, right? So if a brother, has done his time in a Blue Lodge or whatever and is interested in joining York, Rite, or some other appendant body, what do you think the good things are to know about York, Rite, before you were to like kind of go jump into it?
Well, first of all, I think it would be, once Mason is a young man's been grounded in Blue Lodge, I think it'd be a wonderful thing for him to take after about, like, say, 6 months, and he's had a little chance to formulate some questions. Why does the senior warden talk about money? Why does the junior warden talk about time? Well, so after he's had a chance to formulate questions, I think going on and taking the chapter and council degrees will answer some of his questions and make him more excited about learning more about his Blue Lodge and why it exists. So I think that's a good thing to take him. Activity is a little different thing. I think he needs to finish his journey, the hero's journey on the Blue Lodge route, and go on. But some of the amazing things that I find, and I hope I'm answering your question the right way. The things I think that are beneficial that drive me about is the unanswered questions. Things like how the craft gets paid, and why, and we learn many great things, great lessons in the fellow craft masons degree. But do we really think those three characteristics that are referred to for the payment plan are really the way men got paid? Do we think those three elements that were spoken of in the fellowcraft degree are really the manner of payment for fellowcraft masons, the workers? Or do we know that it's a bond between two sovereigns, which it was? So things like we work in a temple that's incomplete. We're as Master Masons, we're working in a temple that's still in its 7th year of construction, and we work with one of our leaders no longer with us. We work with information that was promised to us, not given. The designs upon the trestle board, those are wonderful lessons. It's not just the getting of those answers, but it's how our ancient brethren developed a system where we would get those answers through a process that makes us think about our duties to our Creator. And ultimately, that makes us better servant leaders. It makes us better stewards. It makes us better men. If we adopt the process of learning how to be a better son. It's
For me, I was going to say, for me, I've always says it's puzzle pieces. The Blue Lodge, you're starting to get, say, the border of the puzzle. When you go to chapter and council, now you're starting to get some of the middle pieces, and you're starting to see more of the whole picture, if you will.
Well, and that's a good analogy. I would add to that in that Blue Lodge, you get the border pieces, but you also that whole visual as you're sitting in the west and you're looking to the east in your Blue Lodge, that whole visual of what's in that east. You think about that for a moment. The visual of what's in that east. That's you get that in the Blue Lodge. That piece of the puzzle is there, but everything around it is filled in to let you know why that east is so important. That is the beauty, I think, of the chapter council. It teaches you why the items in the east are really there. Some men go to lodges. They've gone to lodges their whole lives, and up in the east, right behind the master of the lodge, it says "Holiness to the Lord," and they just think it's supposed to be there because it's always been there. It's grandma's ham. That's just the way it is. That's what we do. It's there. It's behind it. It's there. There's the blazing star there, and we know what's in the east. And but then there's that ark that says "Holiness to the Lord." Mount Vernon's got one. A lot of lodges that don't have a chapter council have one, but they did have a chapter council, and that did mean something to Masons 100 years ago, and it still does. And those puzzle pieces, that Blue Lodge gives us the heart of the puzzle, but it doesn't tell us what it is. It doesn't give us a framework. It doesn't give the pieces a puzzle around it to hold that east there in the center. And we know what I'm talking about when I say the east. We all know what I'm talking about. So that's what the chapter and council does. It really tells a man who's wanting to learn the secrets of Freemasonry truly what they are. And it's not just about that one thing. It's not just about that one thing in the East, but it's how we arrive at that one thing in the East. It's the journey there. There's this Chris Livingston did a wonderful presentation talking about the hero's journey. He did a wonderful presentation here. He was grand orator. And the hero's journey in a man's life is important. It isn't fictional. We do have things that we're supposed to accomplish. Sometimes we don't make it. Sometimes our journey is short. Sometimes we never start on the hero's journey. And I'm not being overly dramatic with this, like, that we all ought to go off and join the Peace Corps. The hero's journey could be, being that guy that steps up to be a DEMA advisor, to be a Boy Scout camp, Boy Scout, the adult leadership for a Boy Scout troop. The guy that drives the bus for the band at school. We have a brother at one of the lodges here that that was his job, was to be the red cap for all the guys and gals in the band. That could be the hero's journey, how we serve our fellow man, how we isn't that what most people ask? Why am I here? Don't most people look for that?
Mm-hmm.
And don't we have an amazing framework for a man to find why he's here?
Yes.
We can try all we want. We're faith based. Everything in our degrees is based on not multi. I'm talking about in the traditional Blue Lodge, ancient craft masonry, and the continuation of that through York Rite. Everything about it is Judeo-Christian. I mean, there are some things that are important to other faiths that are in there, but truly everything about it is Judeo-Christian. And I have no problem with another brother of another faith using his book of faith to take his obligation on. But his book of faith doesn't really have anything to do with those degrees. It has to do with his bond to his creator. And I'm okay with that. I really am. Yeah. But I think we don't need to be disingenuous. We don't need to be the degrees are what they are, and they're contained in what they are, and that's not ever going to change. So we need to be honest with ourselves to know where the basis, that when we want to use all kinds of euphemisms like sacred writings and things like that. That's all right. I don't want to be offensive about it, but let's be honest. Which sacred writing has our degrees in it?
Holy
Yeah,
Bible.
yeah. Some of a lot of it comes from the Old Testament. It isn't necessarily Christian in faith and in practice, but a great deal of it. Ask and shall be given you, seek and you shall find, knock and shall be opened unto you. That's a wonderful Bible verse. Can you find that for me in the Old Testament? I love that Bible verse. Yeah. Let's all be honest about this. That our ancient brethren who they are, those people. The Judeo-Christian history is so important, but the Christian impact on Masonry and the time frame that it arose, as we know it today, is and that's where our searches typically are going to be for a man who's working in Masonry, but that's not where the search ends. It ends with him finding finishing his hero's journey. Anyway, enough of that. I'm sorry. That's not what you asked me about.
So, the York Rite. So basically, it's a continuation of Blue Lodge.
Yes,
It's
that's 100%.
like Tony said, puzzle pieces. You're able to group some of the puzzle pieces together with, this tree over here and the house pieces and the face over there and all that, and you piece it all together.
Most excellent master's degree. The only degree in Masonry, all of Masonry, the only degree in Masonry where the temple is actually completed, and that's monitorial, but that the temple is actually completed in that degree. Yeah. That's so symbolic. I mean, think about that. We talk about this completing this inner temple. We talk about the inner temple, and that the symbolism of that degree is massive. Yet it's the penultimate. It's you have to, then everybody's shooting for the Royal Arch degree, which is great. Royal Arch degree is much older. It's it and the Master Mason's degree were evolving about the same time. Probably the Royal Arch degree is older. Like I say, it was. We don't want to admit that, but there's evidence as it was being conferred in the mid 1600s. So the York Rite Royal Arch degree is probably older in the symbolism than the Blue Lodge Master Mason's degree. We have all these things that, like in the 1770s, there was only one degree of masonry, guys. You got your name put on a list, and that's how you were an entered apprentice. Your name was entered on a list, and then you got your degree, and you became a Mason, a full member. Well, then about that's 1717. They agreed on that. It was going on before that. It's not like it just poof. It happened in 1717. It was already going on. Then about the early 1720s, then they said, okay, there's 2 degrees. Oh, well, we used to just have 1. Now we've got 2 degrees. All right, and then you move forward about 4 or 5 years. Now we've got 3 degrees. That master's degree that didn't exist, all of a sudden, well, it was invented. No, it didn't just get invented in that 1 year. It didn't just happen in 1727 or 1729. It was already being conferred. Let's be honest about this.
They're just doing more structure.
Yeah. So the Royal Arch degree is part of that. Those degrees were being conferred long before they became part of a system. Passwords that were used to go on to the next step have been altered. Yeah. Okay. And that's universal through Masonry. Everybody talks about the Scottish Rite. I mean, Albert Pike put together a book. The Scottish Rite is much older than Albert Pike, but he put together a book before Morals and Dogma. And they had these. There was this one degree, and it's got a bunch of arches in it. I don't want to talk too much about symbolism, but all those arches had names on them, which were sacred names. Well, you move forward a few years, he does moral and dogma, and you look at those two manuscripts side by side. Those massive sacred names in that first book, they're totally different in the second book. How do you change sacred names? So guys, Masonry is not pure and unimpaired. It's not handed. If Masonry were handed down pure and unimpaired, I could go to Louisiana and confer a master's degree. I could go to Tennessee and confer a master's degree. It's not. It's not handed down pure and unimpaired. Texas has changed their word. There's parts of the Texas ritual that were monitorial. There are living Masons that worked under a book, Taylor Hamilton Monitor. Parts of that Taylor Hamilton Monitor are monitorial that we say are esoteric today. Masonry, the ritual is not. It changes. It evolves. It just does. If it didn't, then we could you and I, Brad, we could hop a bus, go to New York. Well, hey, Brad, let's go confer a master's degree in New York. Don't think so. It isn't. So we need to the motivation behind the degrees. We need to understand the motivation of the founders of this degree, and there's no doubt that they wanted us. In some cases, they wanted to sell degrees. Selling degrees was really important at one time. Guys went around. I'm not saying that Jeremy Ladcross did or any other people, but selling of degrees was really they would come to you and they would sell you that degree and give you a copy of it so you could do the degree also. It's a great history on that.
That's cool.
But the point that's side degrees, but the point of the chapter and council degrees is truly that master's journey. That finishing that temple, learning your relationship to your creator. That's really what it's all about.
That sounds really cool. So
go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was just trying to I had one more question about okay, so I'm interested in learning more. And so I decided I want to go ahead and find the local chapter or whatever and go join. What would be the journey through York Rite? And there's different parts of York Rite too. Like you got chapter and council and Commandry and Templar and different.
Yes.
Can you explain the different parts of that?
Yes, sir. The main bodies were the chapter and the Commandry. Then the council came along. There's a misconception that the council degrees were Scottish Rite degrees. They weren't Scottish Rite degrees. They were degrees that existed. The Scottish Rite conferred them for a while, and then no longer conferred them, and they were organized as the council because they obviously were meant as a side note to the Royal Arch degree and the meanings thereof, and the master's degree. They so explain things from the master's degree amazingly, the council degree. So here we go. The chapter degrees, there's 4 chapter degrees. Starts off with an ancient degree, the Mark Master's degree, very old, very Scottish. We don't quite do the same. You would recognize it, but again, not handed down pure and unimpaired. Not. But you would recognize our Mark Master's degree, but it's the vast differences to the British Isles version. The past master's degree, I believe every master of a lodge should get that degree. Hopefully, before he gets installed as master, he can get a Blue Lodge version of that without having joined the chapter and council. You can get that degree, but it's amazing. The most excellent master's degree is the next degree. It talks about our relationship to God and what we build and what we do, and the Lord accepting our work. Uh, and we all want to hear that phrase, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." Well, sometimes we see it. Sometimes we don't hear it, but we see it. And the most excellent master's degree talks about that. The Royal Arch degree finishes the chapter. It talks about the recovery of something we've looked for our entire Masonic career and how it got where it got there, and the symbolism why our ancient brethren thought to do it this way. So the chapter degrees are quite old, especially the Royal Arch degree, quite old. The Mark Master's degree, quite old. Then the Counsel degrees are next. You must have the chapter and council degrees to become a Knights Templar, to take the Commandry orders and become a Knights Templar. The council degrees, they go back in time to right on top of the building of the temple. They happen during the time of Hiram Abiff. We study so much about him. They happened during his lifetime, and we hear from him more than just in the second section of the master's degree. So we hear from him. We hear some of his thoughts on life, and particularly about death. And that's amazing thought process that our brothers would have taken to get to that point to write that degree. Then the Commandry orders are next in that lineup, and there are 3 Commandry orders, and one of them has absolutely nothing to do with Christianity. It's the Order of the Red Cross. It's very Old Testament. It's wonderful. It's historic. It's grand, but it has nothing to do with Christianity. But it is a precursor to the I say nothing. There are hints at it. So the Malta and the Order of the Temple are beautiful, beautiful orders, wonderful orders, and I would recommend every practicing Christian Mason to take that Order of the Temple before he goes home to see the Lord. I think the sooner the better. I think it's an amazing experience for a Christian Mason to take the Order of the Temple. I've seen it outdoors at full moon, and I saw a guy that was my age with tears in his eyes, and sitting next to a guy that had tears in his eyes. So it was an experience for both of us, and we will never forget watching a friend receive the Order of the Temple outdoors in full moon with brothers and companions and friends. The experiences of that, but ultimately, it's the chapter degrees get you there, and that the Royal Arch degree it's to me is the pivot to all of it, and then there's all kinds of things. There's the biblical stories of the Scarlet Cord that do all the steps coming up to King David. It's really neat. Someone wrote degrees that kind of build a backstory, kind of like the Star Wars. Start off with episode 4 with Luke Skywalker, and then they built the backstory and did the preceding. Well, the Scarlet Cord does the same thing. The degrees that came along later, but they fill in the backstory that got us to where we were in episode 4 with Luke Skywalker going off to fight Darth Vader. So it's a Scarlet Cord degrees are really cool. They're side degrees, tangent degrees. There's degrees. There's what if degrees. That's what all those parlor degrees, those degrees that were being sold, selling of the patents or certificates. They're parlor degrees. Men sit around just like we're doing tonight. We're talking. We're sitting around as they would have done together in one of their parlors and discussed masonry and discussed discoveries that were going in the world. All this in the 1600s, 1700s, all the explorers and all this information is coming back, and all these secret Rosicrucians Zoroaster, all the strange religions. All this information is flooding back to them, and more than just the few chosen enlightened ones are finding this stuff out, and they're sitting around like we are, and all of a sudden parlor degrees are being formulated, and people were selling them. Yeah, I get it. That was but how else to get it out there? So but yeah, I think the Royal Arch degree is the anchor, and that's a goal to go. And then you go ahead and go get your council degrees and your Commandry orders afterwards. I don't know if that answers your question, but I hope it did.
Yeah, how many parts of the council are there? You mentioned 4 degrees in the chapter.
Two degrees in the council, except there is a third degree called the Super Extra Master degree, which you do not have to take. It's a side, not a side degree, but it's a honorarium type degree that you can decide to take on your own, and it's 100% Old Testament biblical. It deals with Zedekiah, King Zedekiah. He was the last king of Judah, and the Bible says that Zedekiah was 120 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem and did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, and humbled himself not before Jeremiah the prophet, speaking from the mouth of God. So you can tell it's very biblical, and it deals with that time frame with King Zedekiah and that portion of the Bible. It's so, and then there's chair degrees. Oh my gosh, when you become like you're a past master of your lodge, when you become a past high priest, you can receive the order of the high priesthood, which is really cool, really biblical. Order of Melchizedek. The New Testament talks about Christ being a high priest after the order of Melchizedek. Well, you would be initiated as to a member of the order of Melchizedek, the order of high priesthood. The Order of Silver Trowel for past thrice illustrious masters of the councils. There are chair degrees, and so there's all kinds of tangent side degrees, but the core of them are the 4, 2, and the 3. The 4 chapter, the 2 council, and the 3 Commandry orders. That's the core. And yes.
Are there any? There's a question in the chat from David Lawson.
You
He
beat me to
asks,
it.
can we recommend some books to learn more about the York Rite?
Wow, I'm terrible about recommending books. I'm going to say the best person. Have him. My email address is David_Rogers ROGERS 75217 at yahoo.com. And Al Mox, I would normally hand out Al's information, but Al's going through some cancer surgery right now and cancer treatment. But it's my Brad. You've got my email, and but it's David_Rogers 75217 at yahoo.com, and I will get Al's. I think personally, one of the neatest things historically is Jewel P. Lightfoot wrote a brief history of York Rite Masonry in Texas, and it's terribly important historically, but it doesn't answer the type of questions that Brother Lofton would have. Bob Davis has a great book, and up in Oklahoma, he's got a great book. But let me. I want to give him the best. I want him to get the best book out there, and I want to talk to Al about that and get Al's opinion of what I've got one, but I want to talk to Al first because I want the brother to get the best experience for sure. And so have brother and but my phone number, by the way, guys, no secrets here. 214-682-6241. You can call me. Not right now because I'm on the phone on this on this call. But Brother Lawson, you can call me. But I want to talk to Al and get his recommendation. I've got a couple that I can tell you right off the top of my head. There's also a study guide if you've already joined that the General Grand Chapter, which we aren't a member of, but you can take it. It's a great study guide. But anyway, yes.
I don't really have any other questions as regarding like the journey through. What part I did have one last question, and then I can turn it over to Chris and Tony if they got anything else. So the Knights Templar, that's part of the York Rite, right?
Yes, sir. That's the three orders, Knights Templar, which we get great PR. Except Kingdom of Heaven, we weren't really the good guys in Kingdom of Heaven, but for the most part, we're generally the good guys. But the Knights Templars, the three orders of the Knights Templar are the Order of the Red Cross, the Order of Malta, and the Order of the Temple. And that's where the term Templar comes from. There's a great history of that. The superstition of Friday the 13th comes from the Templars. When Jacques de Molay was burned at the stake on Friday the 13th, and kind of that's kind of bad luck. Getting burned at the stake's kind of bad luck. But
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
the Templars were extraordinarily powerful. I think they invented traveler's checks. They were seriously.
The first ATMs, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. And
Oh, I think we lost your audio, Dave.
sorry, am I still gone?
It just sounds distant. You're back, but it sounds very distant.
How's this?
That's
Any
that.
better?
Yeah, that's better.
A little better.
Just didn't want to miss anything you were saying.
Well, the Red Cross again is Old Testament. It has to do with almost like that Super Exomaster 3, that same time frame about after the destruction of the temple by Nebuchadnezzar, a generation or two later, a couple generations later. It has to do with that time frame. The Order of Malta is historical. It truly is a historical degree of the actual Templars' journey, how they got to where they got, the many places on their journey to get to the Isle of Malta, and beyond. The real Knights Templars we're real Knights Templars, but their organization still exists. There is great evidence to believe that Knights Templars settled, well, not evidence, they did settle in Scotland. The Scottish people were notorious for repurposing burial stones, and when they were doing some cemetery work, they found that some of the Scottish families had taken the tombstones, the marking stones from Knights Templars, and flipped them over and put their family stones on there. They found this, and they found all kinds of Knights Templar burial spots in Scotland, and these stones had been turned over. Yeah, the Knights Templars were all over Scotland. That whole thing about Bannockburn and the Scottish, the great victory, and people wonder what the tide of the tide of the turn of the tide of battle, and some people suppose it was Knights Templars coming in. I don't know, but it's very obvious that they were there. They survived in Portugal after the purge by the Pope and Clement Pope Philip the Fair of France and Pope Clement. And later on, by the way, they were exonerated a number of years later. A few years ago, a lady was doing some research and found out where the Vatican and they did, it was a frame up. They really did conspire to kill them. Well, anyway, those the Malta is a historical degree, whereas the Order of the Temple is really a journey of a knight's journey in relationship to his wanting to experience the pilgrimage of his Christ as his risen Savior, and that whole journey through the crucifixion, and but in relationship, a personal relationship of a pilgrim's journey. That's really what it is, a pilgrim warriors. Wow. And it's. I hope that answered your question about the order, the Knights Templar.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, brothers, do you have anything you wanted to ask
Tony? Take it
Well,
away, sir.
I don't want to quite ask, but I was fortunate enough when I was the master of Roy City. I did have a chance to go through the past master's degree, a kind of a piece of it, like he spoke of. Uh, and I'll tell you, it definitely fires you up, gets you going, get the under, just the understanding, I guess, the best way I could say that.
A
Uh,
respect, yeah, a respect and
yeah.
understanding. Yeah.
Uh, but I knew as soon as I got out of the East, I wanted to join the York Rite, and I took a couple years after I got out of the East to kind of breathe again, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I've joined York Rite, and now I've been a companion of yours for a couple months now, and
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it so much. I mean, it's been tremendous. I've enjoyed it tremendously. I'd encourage every Mason to do it.
Our random encounter has been a pretty good one.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
And then I guess my question slash you kind of mentioned, a long time ago there was 1 degree, then 2 degrees.
yeah.
Kind of like I think it's Scotland. Uh, what they consider they have like fourth degrees, or their master degree is included in the past master's degree or something like that. Do you know anything on that?
They're no, I don't about that. I know that the Scottish master's degree, yeah, being being a mark master is more important in Scotland than being a master mason.
Okay.
It's
I know it's a little difference. That's
yeah,
just
the mark master is huge there, but in some of the Scandinavian countries, particularly in Sweden, they don't even use the legend that we use in our degrees. Theirs are based on the St. John's. So I mean, but we're still in fraternal relationship. But they have a whole different degree system that doesn't include our legends of the master's degree. So it's kind of interesting. So it is, again, it's not pure and unimpaired. It never has been. But the framework and the basics. The four cardinal virtues. Brad's going to be talking about this soon. But temperance, fortitude, prudence, and justice. That's Marcus Aurelius. I mean, that's I think they used courage instead of
Courage.
fortitude. Yeah. But that's Marcus Aurelius. I mean, just dead on, dead on. Yeah, that's old, that's ancient, and it's. Uh, 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 but anyway, I didn't mean to get off on it. Steal your thunder, Brad. I'm
at the
looking.
end of the day, we can learn from all of it.
Yeah.
There's something to be learned.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of this whole journey.
I feel like I've really dominated this tonight. I know y'all have a lot of.
You were supposed to.
That's what we wanted.
Yeah, everybody, all our like viewers, they came on to view you talk about this because that was the whole point of it.
They don't want to see some bald guy. They want to meet the alive today walking Moses.
Well, I've got the bald spot.
Speaking of Moses, has anybody ever called you Moses?
Oh, that's horrible, Brad. All the time. But the worst is I was in a restaurant with Brad Billings and oh gosh, Corey. Oh my gosh, no, it's James Willard. I think it's James Willard and Brad and I were having lunch. I mean, out at Rockwall at the lake, just having lunch, and a kid comes walking up, like 10, 11-year-old kid comes walking up and says, "Is your name Moses?" Yeah.
You're a young Moses. Wasn't Moses like 900 or something?
And I took my staff like I always do, and I reached over, took my staff, and I took it, I tapped it on the wall, tapped my staff on the wall. No water, no water, no water. But turns out that behind me is one of my high school buddies, and that's his lady friend. It's a wonderful story. He's occasionally goes out with a gal that's a waitress at one of his favorite restaurants, and he took her kids out on his boat that day. They'd never got to do the boat riding thing, and he took them out. And so David Brooks gets this kid to come over and ask me, not knowing the whole Masonic thing, had no idea about me getting teased about Moses and Albert Pike on the whole Masonic. Yeah, I get the Albert Pike thing and I get the Moses thing, and it's hilarious. I love it. Um, and Albert Pike, we want to reinvent people. He doesn't need reinventing. He did what he did during the Civil War, but after the Civil War, he became an advocate for Native Americans' rights and treaty violations and their persecutions. And if other people in our society can do tough, bad things, and they can be rehabilitated and do good things in life, like Malcolm X, how streets are named after him now. Why do we vilify Albert Pike, a Mason's Mason, and a man who tried to do great things after the Civil War, and he's still vilified? And I don't understand how we live in a society where somebody can do horrible things in their life, but they can turn their life around and be honored and praised. But if other people can't be, there's no forgiveness. And I find that he's one of the most colorful and amazing guys in Masonry, and and a great American, truly. Was on, arguably the wrong side of a little problem we had. But ultimately he was about helping people, and his research with Albert Mackey was amazing. And y'all still got to go read some of Albert Mackey's symbolisms, guys. You got to go read those. I'm not kidding about those phallic symbols. That he's out there. It's interesting. It's great reading, but it's out there. And some of his retakes on some of the Masonic symbols. And this is from our Blue Lodge work. Predominantly from our Blue Lodge work. You can get it on the internet.
Yeah.
Albert Mackey symbolisms. Look it up. It's great. So,
That's okay, because Tony's out there too. So, and we just accept him. We love him.
So I was listening to a book today on an audio book, and it's called it's by Napoleon Hill. It's called Think and Grow Rich. This guy's from the early 1800s, and late he died in 1971, but he wrote this book back in 1936. And I was listening to it, and he was talking about being educated, and the word educated, where it came from, is a Latin word, educato or something. But it was talking about from internal, from inside. And he went on to talk about Henry Ford and everything, but really the thing about being educated, it's not about knowing everything. It's about knowing people like you, Brother David, or people like you, Brother Tony, or people like you, Brother Chris. Uh, if I don't know something, but Chris is really good with IT, and so I could go and ask Chris about IT, or I could go ask Tony about fitness, or I could go ask you about York Rite or anything regarding masonry, and I'm sure you've probably forgot more than I've ever learned. But
yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. Is that being educated is not so much in me knowing everything, is knowing somebody that I can ask.
Yeah, having resources, isn't it true? Having resources is very important.
Yeah.
Good point. Great point.
So I appreciate you being on. I don't really, have any more to ask regarding York Rite. Is there any parting words you want to say about York Rite or anything?
Well, no, I just, well, yeah, yes, I do. I would not knocking any other organizations like Olive Grottos or Shrine or Scottish Rite, amazing institution. I conferred degrees for 20 years more at Dallas Scottish Rite. I loved the time there. Wouldn't take for it. Amazing. Zero. I really believe that a Mason who loves Lodge work would find a natural progression and would find answers to lead him on the journey that that the founders of this degree intended us to go down. I really believe that the York Rite is a natural continuation of the path that again the founders of these degrees intended us to go down. They were the ones that organized these that old. So, from the 1600s, 1600s, the degrees basically started getting formulated, and into the 1700s, the age of enlightenment, and all the parlor degrees that came along. With all that being said, I truly believe that a man's journey will be beneficial once he's ready. Once he's ready to look for additional light, that the York Rite should be his first stop, and that the Scottish Rite shouldn't be too far behind that. If he can do both at the same time, again, I mean, you don't want things to be grandma's hand where you're just doing something because you were told to do it. You want to take some time to think about it, to absorb it, to find your own questions, do your own research, go down your own rabbit holes. I talked about this in Fort Worth just recently. Find something you're passionate about, research it. You don't know what you'll find. I did love the story about this discalciation, and I'll leave you guys to read Joshua chapter 5 at your own leisure. Like pretty deep down in there, Joshua chapter 5, and it talks about this discalciation. It only happens twice in the Bible, and the other time was that guy's mentor Moses. And we can talk about that another time. But that's an amazing thought process, just on something as simple as discalciation. Anyway, guys, I've enjoyed it. I really have. And any questions, anything typed up other than me not being able to help David out on his books? There is one, kind of not simplistic, but I believe it's called the York Rite Mason's Handbook. I can't remember who the author is, but it was kind of it's a basic kind of starter. There was can't remember. I think it was called the American.
James Hatcher.
Yeah, I think that was it. And,
Yep, the third.
It's not horribly deep, but it's got some really good references. And I don't want to make light of it. I mean, I haven't written books so it's deeper than anything I've done. And there's another one called the American Rite. It kind of points out some of the differences in us and the European Rite a little bit. And that's kind of interesting. That's more. Oh, by the way, you haven't discovered Duncan's Masonic ritual. It's kind of a new. Don't read ahead. Don't read ahead, guys. Don't read ahead. But yeah, that's those. I think it's called the History of the American Rite or the American Rite. And it is different. It is slightly different. So I can't move the mouse around and talk to you all at the same time. So I can't find the name of the other book I was trying to think of.
All right. Well, I guess we'll close out.
I'd like to
Go
add
ahead.
one more thing. If
Yeah,
Okay.
Tom.
for our audience, if y'all enjoyed hearing David this evening, Roy City, we are having what is it, Brad? September 14th.
Oh yeah, September
Uh,
14th. He's coming up to visit our lodge. We're going to have a speaker event called Esoteric: The Internal and the External. I was talking with Lucille Bell. She is the secretary of the OES chapter at our lodge. They're actually having their district deputy visit that day, so we can't really get into the lodge room until about 12:30. So, but they'll be in there eating lunch, and we're just going to file into the lodge room, and then they'll clean up and leave their desserts for us. Whenever
Ooh.
oh, there's going to be
there's
pie.
your pie,
There you
there's
go.
your pie.
Let there be pie. Let there be pie.
So, what I was saying, all's welcome. If you've enjoyed
I,
hearing what David had to share, come meet him, shake his hand.
Yeah,
I know he'd love to have you, and we'd love to have you. So,
yeah,
get a hold of any of us here, and we can give you more details. We'll have it posted up and all that
Mhm.
other great stuff. So, thanks for
yeah.
joining us.
Yes,
uh,
sir.
Like and
I,
subscribe. Don't forget that part.
yes,
Tell
sir.
Tell Mason.
And tell them Mason. That's right.
Yeah, God bless, fellas. Have a good evening.
Thank you, brother.
See ya.
Appreciate you.
Welcome.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
David.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah, I just got the end music going, end credits and everything. Good
They can
stuff.
still
I mean,
hear
they can
us.
still hear us, but we'll talk it out. It's all good. We're not totally gone. We're just half gone.
One of the guys in the chat